Next up, we have another example of using GitOps with KCP Edge with maximal visual inspection. Franco, please take it away.
Thank you. This slide illustrates MVI Edge application and deployment and configuration lifecycle through KCP Edge. In particular, the MVI Edge app is deploying on two MVI Jetson Nano running each a microchip cluster, as shown at the bottom in the blue boxes. We can use the green number in the diagram to follow the various steps involved in the deployment and configuration of MVI. As step number 1, the user pushes the app manifest to the Git repo. Argo CD pulls the manifest from the Git repo and syncs it into the KCP Edge workload management workspace at step number 2. Then if you proceed to step number 3, KCP Edge syncer that is running in each of the microchip cluster on the 2 Jetson Nano detects the manifest and pulls it to the cluster. At step 4, the syncer deploys the MVI operator and that starts the MVI Edge app at step 5. At this point, the application is up and running, but it's not configured with any inspection or model to be used. So we go back to step number 6, where the user pushes down the manifest to configure the MVI Edge application to the Git repo. And again, at 7, Argo pulls the new manifest from the Git repo and syncs them to the KCP Edge workload management workspace. At 8, KCP Edge syncer pulls the new manifest from the center, and at 9, the syncer deploys the MVI configuration operator, and the configuration operator proceeds to configure the MVI Edge application connected to the hub at step 10. Finally, step 11 shows that the MVI Edge app pulls the desired models and data from the mass MVI hub at the center. Okay, so in this demo, again, we will use KCP Edge to deploy and configure the MVI Edge app onto two real Jetson Nano, NVIDIA Jetson Nano, each running a microchip cluster. We look at the Git repo, we see that it contains the YAML for the operator and a CR that are used to guide the deployment of the MVI Edge app for the 2 Jetson Nano. In particular, the 2 CR, for example, contain different names as shown at the very top. If we look at Argo CD, we can now see that we already configured 2 clusters that correspond to 2 different KCP Edge workload management workspaces. We also have 2 applications for the 2 Jetson Nano, and we can see that the objects for the operator are present. Argo CD also shows us the list of the objects that will be synced from the Git repo to the workload management workspace. Now, in a second, we'll proceed to a manual sync of these YAMLs to the KCP Edge. And then we'll move to a view of what is happening inside the microchip cluster on the 2 Jetson Nano, where we will see that the MVI Edge operator here is being deployed and the application, MVI application, is also being deployed. Now we can browse to the application itself that is up and running. And we'll see that it's not connected to the hub yet. In fact, if we look in the settings, we will see that there is no API key yet set up for the Jetson Nano A. For the Jetson Nano B, we'll also show that, for example, there are no stations set up and there are no models available. Now let's proceed for the configuration, and we will push the configuration CRs and operator to the Git repo. Again, let's look at the Git repo. We see the config operator and CR specifically. And if we scroll down, we can see that the Jetson Nano on the left is requested to deploy a remote model called our Augmented V2, while the Jetson Nano on the right is requested to deploy a local model called Mendeley Snack in this case. Again, let's look at the apps in Argo CD, and we see that now new objects are present for the configuration. And we will sync one more time to deploy the configuration. Again, let's look at what's happening on the Microshift cluster. We'll see that we have the config operator running now, and the configure operator will configure the apps. In particular, we see that now we are connected, and in the dashboard, there are inspection set up for both Jetson Nano that are processing the images. And in a second, we'll look at the configuration. And if we scroll down, we will see that the Jetson Nano A on the left-hand side indeed has a remote model running an augmented V2 model. And the Jetson Nano on the right has a local model running a Mendeley snack model as prescribed by the CR that we showed before in the Git repo. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.